So what I want to talk about is the two main gut dysfunctions. Actually, three. My apologies. Low diversity, inflammation. Two, leaky gut, intestinal permeability, increased permeability. Three, low bile enzyme production, also known as hypochlorhydria. Signs, symptoms: GERD, acid reflux, heartburn, gastritis, those type of things. So what I want to talk about is each one in depth and kind of like how to solve it, obviously in conjunction with everything that I do, because that's kind of what these videos are for, to just pretty much empower you to be able to understand most of the things that are going on, and then obviously have you understand how the process we're doing helps intertwine why we're doing it. Because I think the biggest thing for adherence is like on the days where you're like, fucking A, Diego, I'm not trying to have this shake. I think this would be important to understand, like, why are we doing these things? Because I even get that myself. If I'm like, yeah, this is ass, but I know that the reason why I'm doing this is for this thing. Okay. So that's why we do these educational things. That's why we try to create these things for you girls to understand, like, why we're doing specific things throughout the process of the program to see the progress and the results. Okay. So obviously, first things first. We're going to go over the three right now. The last one's a whole separate topic, and that's SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is a whole thing in itself. So that'd be a topic for a different time. But obviously, the gut is called the second brain because a lot of your neurotransmitters, specifically serotonin, is housed in your gut. So if you have an off gut, then you obviously have an off, neurotransmitters in your brain. You have poor mental issues. Okay. So today we'll talk about low diversity, inflammation, leaky gut, and low enzyme and bile production. Okay, so obviously the gut plays roles everywhere throughout the body. All right, so first things first is inflammation and low diversity. What we mean by low diversity is that how much gut bacteria is in your gut. Clear evidence shows that people with diabetes, obesity, chronic health conditions, neurodegenerative diseases have low diversity in their gut. Okay. And there's clear evidence that shows that the more diverse your gut is, the healthier you are. Okay. So when they look at people, when they actually do studies of fecal transplants, meaning they take stool out of someone else's, put it into someone else's. All right. I might be a little off on that. Don't quote me, but something like that where they transport their microbiome. Okay. Those people become sicker. They've done it in rats and mice because that's obviously not, ethical to do it in humans. But if you're getting what I mean, the more, inflamed you are, the more sick you are, the more overweight you are, the more, let's just say, undiverse your gut microbiome is. Okay. So first things first is that inflammation is the body's natural response to injury or infection. Okay. So that inflammation is good because inflammation brings regeneration. Both too much inflammation brings disease and illness. Okay. We talked about it before. More so called hormesis, when there's a negative thing that creates a good thing, but it happens. But when it becomes too long, when there's too long of stress, too long inflammation, that's when issues come. So how can we get this? Under eating for too long can cause inflammation. Overtraining, inflammation. Too many medications, inflammation. Too many ibuprofens, acetaminophen, that causes inflammation and breaks down the gut lining. And obviously not sleeping. Okay, so low diversity in the gut refers to lack of variety in the microbiome. A diverse microbiome is associated with better health, aiding in digestion, immune function, and protection against diseases. Whereas low microbiome diversity has been linked to obesity, diabetes, and inflammatory bowel disease, IBD, which is very common. Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, all of those. All right, so here's actually how to get to the root cause of these things. We first want to get to the root cause of the inflammation. A lot of the times it's the SAD diet, or it's what we're doing in our environment on a day-to-day basis. Are we taking a bunch of artificial sweeteners? Are we taking poor quality supplements? Are we eating a lot of processed inflammatory foods? Okay. those are the things that can cause us to be inflamed in our GI tract. Okay. Another thing is just too many medications, too many, NSAIDs, which are the, ibuprofen, acetaminophen, that causes inflammation. Okay. So the next step is to implement an inflammatory diet. So pretty much what that is a lot of, we like to do, especially for you women in the beginning, we do a Mediterranean type diet, Mediterranean type. Now, for some individuals, we do lower FODMAP, depending on what your symptoms are and stuff like that, low oxalate, nightshade, all that. So it's all independent to you specifically, and you'll know that in your plan. But with that being said, we implement an anti-inflammatory diet, okay, focusing on obviously, good quality meats, fish, chickens and things like that, turkeys. But then also on the, fruits and veggie sides, making it very diverse. And then obviously easily digestible carbohydrate sources, fast carbohydrate sources for blood glucose stabilization. Next would be removing some of the NSAID use and PPI use. So like omeprazole, ibuprofen, all of that. So just doing that. Okay. And then incorporating inflammatory reducing foods and supplements. So what that is like, I like using salmon. Okay. Like you obviously know that we like using salmon because it has omega-3s in them. Omega-3 has high DHA and EPA, which helps with fighting your body's inflammation. Okay. Because your body has arachidonic acid and oleanic acid. And oleanic acid is really good for you. It's anti-inflammatory acid, but majority of people have a high arachidonic acid. So by eating salmon, bringing anti-inflammatory foods can raise that oleanic acid, then level out the omega ratio, balance out your inflammation. All right. So this is what you can do through supplementation and nutrition. And we're going to break more in depth in some of these. So obviously like curcumins, like turmeric, omega-3 fatty acids, polyphenols, resveratrol, curcumin, quercetin, boswellia. I think I said that right. Anyway, polyphenols are what makes the fruit and the veggie colorful. Those are polyphenols. Aloe vera really helps the gut lining. It reduces inflammation, support gut health, which we'll more on to next. And then prebiotics, probiotics, and that's a mistake. And then short chain fatty acids. So prebiotics, probiotics. Prebiotics feed into the gut microbiota. They feed into your gut. Your gut then produces something called short chain fatty acids, which then feed into your intestinal cells. All right. So here's what we got. Promoting gut health. Probiotics. Probiotics can help balance the gut microbiota, strengthen the intestinal barrier, reduce inflammation, and obviously help the breakdown of harmful substances. And so the exact mechanism of how they work is obviously still undergoing research and stuff, but there are several potential mechanisms. One is that probiotics can compete with harmful pathogens for binding sites in the gut, therefore preventing colonization of the pathogenic bacteria. So making sure you're not dealing with any overgrowth. Okay, and then obviously reduce the risk of infection. Probiotics can also contribute to the repair of leaky gut or increase permeability. And probiotics can strengthen the gut barrier. Antimicrobial properties for probiotics. All in all, probiotics are good to use whenever. Okay, they're really good in conjunction to your gut healing journey. Okay, and some might be on them right away, some might be not on them right away because the way that we do specific things, we don't want to add in more bacteria or more into the equation of what's going on because many individuals struggle with an overgrowth of bacteria. So at a period of time, we want to work on eliminating the FODMAPs. We want to work on eliminating the bacteria. Okay, so that's more so the point why we don't use probiotics right away. But going to the next thing is polyphenols. Okay, so polyphenols in themselves act like a prebiotic substance, like we talked about. They help with feeding the gut bacteria, okay, and providing it the energy, so to say, to feed the intestinal lining, okay, repair the gut lining. Okay, so obviously polyphenols can be found in virtually all plants. Up to 95% of polyphenols you eat travel undigested to the colon. This is why individuals that have IBD. This is why individuals that have IBD do so well on a carnivore diet, because it doesn't have polyphenols in it. Because when you're eating polyphenols, they don't get digested in the small intestine, mostly the colon. Okay. And obviously, in a case like ulcerative colitis, your colon's already inflamed. Large intestine, you can also say. So that's why it irritates them. But curcumin, quercetin, resveratrol. Prebiotics, we obviously know this. So prebiotics, which are also known as higher FODMAP foods, okay, feed the microbes in the microbiome. So obviously, the modern diet that most people eat on a day-to-day basis lacks sufficient intake of prebiotic-rich foods. Prebiotics are so good for you, okay, because it feeds the gut bacteria. But here's the issue. Most people are dealing with a bacterial overgrowth. And if you have prebiotic foods, then you're just contributing to a more of an overgrowth. So for a period of time, you want to eliminate higher prebiotic foods. And that's what we do in the beginning for a majority of you. Okay. And then that's why we have a reintroduction process, okay, to bring back these higher prebiotic foods because you want them. Okay. Next is leaky gut, low enzyme production. Is everyone hearing this? You guys understanding this? All right.
Yeah. No,
cool.
Everything's good.
All right. The gut lining. Most people suffer from gut issues. So let's take a look at this picture here. So we have, this is what a normal tight junction. This is what a normal, so you have your intestines here, okay, and then you have a cell wall, okay, and it has junctions. They're called zonulin, and they're trapped like this. But what happens though is that through all different types of things like stress, inflammatory foods, bacterial overgrowth, it impedes on this gut lining and it begins to split. And now foreign invaders, endotoxins, toxins can flow into our bloodstream, and it causes an inflammatory immunological response. So the gut serves as a vital interference between the environment, world, and our body. So a lot of issues with leaky gut, like a lot of symptoms, are pretty much neurological, meaning you don't get the normal bloating, distension, constipation, diarrhea. You don't really get those symptoms with leaky gut. You normally get brain fog, fatigue, a lot of food sensitivities and food allergens, joint stiffness, food cravings, acne, rashes, and then nutrient deficiencies. A lot of autoimmune conditions can be linked back to leaky gut. All right, so what actually causes an increased permeability or leaky gut? Chronic inflammation, undereating, overexercising. I want you to think about your gut lining like a muscle. If you continue to stress yourself, not properly recover and all of that, then it can break down. If you're dealing with an infection or an overgrowth of bacteria, that can impede on your intestinal lining. Medications, impaired digestion, low stomach acid, we'll get into that. Nutrient deficiencies, stress and trauma, alcohol, environmental toxins, poor diet, food sensitivities, and all those. So, like I said, there's a clear evidence that shows that pretty much leaky gut and autoimmunity, okay, shows that celiac disease and Crohn's disease can be, due to an increased intestinal permeability, which makes sense because celiac disease, you're severely sensitive to gluten, which we talked about. Gluten sensitivities. Okay. Another one is obviously Crohn's disease. If our colon gets inflamed or anywhere in our GI tract gets inflamed, we can contribute that to a leaky gut. Chronic stress and leaky gut. So when we stress, it slows down the blood flow that we have for our digestion tract. Okay. And so, there's a lot going on here, but understand just pretty much it slows down our digestion, our blood flow and our digestion to the nutrient I'm just all over the place right now. All right. So essentially, like I said, I want you to think about your gut lining like this. It's like a muscle. And if it gets continually broken down, then it can split like this, like a leaky gut. That's the best way to put it right there. Obviously, it'll slow down hydrochloric acid production, which then could contribute to low stomach acid and all of that. So, with testing for increased permeability leaky gut, the best one is looking at circulatory IgA readings or zonulin. Zonulin is that protein that keeps the junctions tight. And if it's elevated, then you know there's an impairment of those junctions. Okay. Circulatory IgA also can read it because it is your immune response coming from your gut. Those are the top two for testing for leaky gut. So, how can we actually repair leaky gut? First things first is obviously elimination diet, anti-inflammatory diet. Okay. Making sure that we're eating all different types of foods on the spectrum, omega-3 fatty acids, high quality foods, organic if we can, pasture raised, all that. Okay, next is to remove food problems associated with leaky gut. Okay, gluten, dairy, corn, soy, food additives, artificial sweeteners, okay, preservatives. We're already getting over here. We're getting over here. So removing those things because those all impede leaky gut. Okay. Managing our stress, getting our adrenals under control. That's why I have adrenal support in the beginning for everyone, because it supports not only just hormonal imbalance, mood, energy, but the gut as well. Hot and cold therapy, and then bacteria overgrowth treatment. That's why we use a lot of antimicrobial bacterials in the beginning to help get rid of the overgrowth, because it actually helps with fixing the leaky gut. All right, so that's just there. Okay, now right here, last one, digestive insufficiency. So digestion is a complex process that involves several key components, including hydrochloric acid, pancreatic enzymes, and bile. These are all things that help break down your food when you eat it so it can get used for energy, all of that. Okay, so obviously these all play vital roles in breaking down the food we eat, and it can lead to digestive issues if it's improper. So HCl, hydrochloric acid, okay, is produced in the stomach and plays a crucial role in the initial stage of digestion, the beginning process. When we eat, the stomach releases HCl to create an acidic environment. The acid then helps sterilize the food, killing harmful bacteria and pathogens that might be in actually our food. Okay, HCl also activates pepsin, which then breaks down protein. So hypochlorhydria, also known as low stomach acid, is obviously a decrease in the production of hydrochloric acid in the stomach. If you deal with a lot of acid reflux after meals, you deal with heartburn, GERD-like symptoms, that can be a sign that you have hypochlorhydria, aka low stomach acid. Despite what most people say, it is low stomach acid. It is not high stomach acid that is causing you these GERD symptoms, because your body is not producing the right acidity for your food to be able to digest and assimilate properly. So what then happens is that in the esophagus sphincter, technically, it doesn't let your food in properly. So this is very, kind of broken down. So what then happens is that it'll reflux back up. Okay. So obviously, acid reflux. There's this myth that 60 million Americans experience acid reflux at least once per month, and 15 million experience acid reflux symptoms every day. Doctors have prescribed medication for acid reflux, like protein pump inhibitors. Omeprazole is like what the name brand I know on top of my head. H2 blockers, pepsin, and all of those. Okay, but over 90% of acid reflux cases stem from low stomach acid levels, not high. Okay, is this all making sense?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
when we look at, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just agreeing. Yes, it makes sense.
So when our esophagus gets inflamed, then we're not able to digest and assimilate the foods properly. So then what happens is that the food acidity comes back up in our stomach. So how can this actually even happen? Overuse of antibiotics. We have several rounds of antibiotics. That just totally messes up the gut microbiome, but it can cause hypochlorhydria. Next is H. pylori infection. Now, this is actually pretty common. H. pylori is an infection that is caused by high stomach acid, or I mean low stomach acid. My apology. And it's a bacterial overgrowth, but a lot of people have it when they have those GERD-like symptoms. Chronic stress, poor diet, eating too quickly on the go is a big one. If you're gulping a lot of air and stuff like that, that can cause that. Overuse of NSAIDs, there we go again, and PPIs, these medications that are supposed to help the gut, the medications that are supposed to help while you're hurting do more harm than good, which is unfortunate. So what I like to do with hypochlorhydria is support the gut lining, leaky gut issues, while also having, enzyme support, pancreatic enzyme support, to help with the digestion and assimilation process of nutrients. All right. Man, we just powered through that. All right, there we go. You guys can still see my screen?
No, it disappeared.
I can't see it either.
All right, let me do this. All right. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, it's back.
Okay. Was there any questions on what I kind of went through here?
No, it's all great information. And then I don't know if you've seen it. There's a really good documentary on Netflix. It's called Hack Your Gut. Have you seen it?
No, is that the one on Netflix?
It is, yeah, the one on Netflix.
So a lot of my friends are like, "Yeah, you got to see this. You're the gut guy. How have you not seen this?"
Yeah, it's really good, and it talks about everything that you just discussed in your presentation. So,
I have to
yeah,
take a look.
it's really interesting. Yeah, check it out.
So this is more so to help you. So like kind of like I said, so we talked about leaky gut, and we talked about inflammation, low gut diversity, and we talked about low enzyme bioproduction. So in the beginning, the way that we use the specific diet is more lower FODMAP, okay, but they're obviously anti-inflammatory / elimination diet, which all really help the gut because it helps reduce the inflammation in the gut. It helps get rid of the negative bacteria by lowering the FODMAPs, the higher prebiotic foods. Okay, and then we slowly introduce some of the things back in. We eliminate the gluten. We eliminate a lot of the common food allergens. We obviously eliminate things like the preservatives, the added sugars, and artificial sweeteners.
Right.
By supporting the adrenal glands and using antimicrobial herbs, we help with reducing the inflammation also within the gut, but then also getting rid of the overgrowth of bacteria that is in the small intestine or even large intestine.
Sounds good. Yeah, I can't remember which documentary they were discussing about the fecal transplant that you were talking about.
Yeah, that's
which
interesting.
is super interesting. Yeah, for people that were really, really sick, and then they transplanted fecal matter from somebody who was really, really healthy and had a diverse microbiome, and they transplanted it into the sick person. But what's interesting is that person also started having like the same characters that, like, let's say if the other person had like a sensitivity to a specific kind of foods, then that person started having that same sensitivity to that particular food.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fascinating. I thought it was super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at something today. So there was a healthy mice, because they do a lot of mouse studies, whatever you want to call it, mice. I don't even know. But they had like a mouse, okay, that was healthy. But they had a mouse that was unhealthy, very obese. And they took the microbiome of the unhealthy mouse and put it in the healthy mouse.
Oh.
And the healthy mouse went sick.
Yeah.
So
or vice versa. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's actually like, that's just crazy how the gut microbiome is, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I haven't done too much research, but there's a lot. I haven't done too much research myself, but I know there's a lot of research that shows like people that, you know, have like different types of, you know, issues kind of with autism. They show how their gut microbiome is very different than someone who does not have it.
Oh.
And especially with it's short chain fatty acids and those type of things, which is just wild because like nobody even talks about that. So nobody even talks about how you can improve those issues by supporting and improving your gut health.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been learning a lot about gut health and just how important it is, and how like you said, it leads to other chronic diseases that are just so common nowadays, which is crazy because now everybody has something these days. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of it can contribute to everything that they put in our food and how they're the glyphosate in the normal food that are
Totally.
healthy food. Like it's
Yeah.
just the environment we live in, and then it's just like that's why so many people are having these gut issues. Like,
Yeah.
let alone many people that are, you know, healthier still get these gut symptoms because the things that they're actually doing hurt the gut because it inflames it, and it's just processed food. Not even processed in the fact that it's like McDonald's or whatever. It's like processed by, has a bunch of preservatives in it. Okay.
Right.
It actually shows that bodies are decomposing slower now from all the food preservatives that we're eating.
Oh my gosh. It's yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, they even did a comparison of the industrial, like a person from gut microbiome of a person in the industrialized world versus somebody that is living like in a village somewhere in a third world country, and the gut microbiomes were totally different. And the one that was living in the village had a more diverse microbiome versus the person.
Yeah, I've done. I actually did research with the doctor here. A DNM, which is Doctor of Natural Medicine. Yeah, DNP. Anyway, he was looking at pretty much hunter gatherers in the, I can't pronounce this, like New Guinea tribe. Yeah. But it's basically like testing gut microbiome on those hunter gatherers. And here's actually some fascinating stuff. So a lot of people struggle with gut issues because the way that we're growing up now, especially children, the way that they're even conceived, or not even conceived, but the way that they're getting birthed, whether it be, you know, vaginal or a C-section, that impedes on the gut microbiome.
Yeah.
The reason how antibacterial we are nowadays, that makes us less diverse in the gut microbiome. So people are becoming more inflamed. Babies are more inflamed than ever before now. This is it's just like this is really true though. Like this is real evidence. But you know, more babies are inflamed. More people have more babies have less gut diversity, which then makes them unhealthier. Because how sanitary we are nowadays, especially after COVID and all that. Like it's just like, you know, everything's like super sterilized. Not
all bacteria is bad.
Yeah, exactly. It helps us have more diversity.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super fascinating. But yeah, definitely check out that Netflix Hack Your Gut. That's what it's called.
Hack Your Gut. All right, I'll check it out.
Yeah, super interesting. And discusses everything that you went over in your presentation too. So cool stuff. Yeah.
All right then. Well, we'll see what we'll talk about next time. I'm thinking something with female hormones and what actually affects it. I think that'd be a really good topic to understand. And then learn how that conjunctionally works with inside the process. But all right then.
Sounds good.
All right, let's keep killing it.
All right. Thanks, Diego.
All right. See you.